Welcome to Fun with History with Professor Banks. And today we are on lesson 12 of our history lessons. And today the title of our lesson is Let's Reboot. So that's what we're going to do today, reboot. And before we get into it, let us introduce our music to get us going, shall we? Welcome to Fun with History with Professor Banks. And I have to apologize, this video is a little late. Should have been on a few days ago, but Professor Banks has been very busy lately. We have been doing some upgrades and remodeling of our apartment, and so that's been a lot of work. But anyway, now we are on our history lesson. And it's called Let's Reboot. And I titled that because we are going to look at something that gets us out of those dreadful Middle Ages. And they went on for quite a few years. And then we have this thing that gets us out of the Middle Ages. So let's reboot and look at what that is. So what I'm going to have a special guest with me today as well. But that's in a couple minutes. But first, I want to share with you 3 words that I want you to be familiarized with as we enter this lesson. And that's gold, God, and glory. And that's actually something that historians kind of label this time period that we're jumping into, because this time period kind of involves all 3 of these aspects. So, gold, God, and glory. So, when I talk about gold, what I'm talking about is uncharted territory. So what you're going to start seeing happening now is what you're going to see is nations in Europe are starting to really form now. And I'm talking about modern day ages too, modern day nations as well, I should say, like Portugal, Spain, France, England. They're all kind of starting to come into their own. So these nations are starting to come into their own. And they believe that there's uncharted territory still, and that this uncharted territory could hold a lot of treasures and gold. So that's actually something we're going to get into next week. It's called the Age of Discovery, but that is something that Portugal and Spain are heavily involved in, and we're going to see that next week. So the expedition for uncharted territory. Then God. So what I mean by that, God is Christianity is trying to make an impact and trying to spread and make an influence on the world of Europe still. And so what you're going to see is you're going to see, well, right now we are still being held very strongly by a strong Catholic Church presence. And so the Catholic Church is very powerful in the Middle Ages, a very, very powerful institution. Held a lot of power, actually, even more than any government did. So the Catholic Church is still kind of strong, and what you're going to see is Christianity trying to kind of make its way, pave its way into that picture. And we actually have something specific related to that as well in this time period, which we're going to look at a little bit later on in lessons as well. So that is something that you could be prepared for as we look at that, because that's going to be a lesson on its own too. And then glory. So glory is the battle between the different monarchies in Europe, specifically England. Actually, England had a very strong monarchy, and you're going to see a battle between those monarchies, and you're eventually going to see monarchy kind of be put to an end as well. And again, that's something else that actually is a specific lesson that we are actually going to look at too. But those are the three key words as we come out of the Middle Ages that you really want to focus in on: God, gold, and glory. Okay, so those are the three words that you need to be familiarized with. So today, what I want to do is I'm always trying to do different things with my lessons. So today we are going to do a fill in the blank. And I had these when I was in school. They were kind of a cool thing to have. I loved it sometimes when you had that. The teacher would hand you out a sheet and you just have to fill in the blanks as he's talking along and make sure you catch his words that he's saying to fill in those blanks. So that's what we're going to do today with what we're going to look at with rebooting. Let's reboot. So I should tell you what time period we're looking at here as well. So what we are right now going to be focused in on the 1300s to the 1500s. So the end of the Middle Ages is beginning of the 1300s. So we're looking at the 1300s to 1500s here for this time period that we are going to look at. And now, this week on our history lesson, I am very proud and honored to have a special guest as part of the history lesson. I'm going to bring on Mrs. Professor Banks. She is going to share what she likes about the Renaissance, which is actually, I just gave it away. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at what's going to be called the Renaissance. So she's going to share what she likes about that, and then she's going to fill in the blanks for us as well. So you can come over, get in the camera. Maybe sit on the chair, the couch, honey, because you're lower. Oh, you can see it there if you like it there. This is Mrs. Professor Banks. She doesn't have a fancy hat, but she is the wife of the professor. So anyway, this is the fill in the blank. So can you see that on the paper, honey? Where stuff's underlined mostly. So I'm going to read it, and then you can say what the blank is, and then I'll write it in, and that's how we'll do it, I guess.
Okay.
So what we are looking at here, this is small writing, I apologize, but the time period or movement known as
the Renaissance.
The Renaissance. So let me put that in the blank. There you go. The Renaissance was the catalyst for moving out of the Middle Ages. So the Renaissance was, it's one of my favorite topics. So we're both going to say something we like about it at the end of the lesson. But, we forgot to share the joke of the week. We'll have to do that at the end as well. It's usually at the beginning, but we'll do the joke after. So that is the first blank you need to be aware of. And then it begins in
Northern Italy.
Northern Italy. So I will just write N Italy for Northern Italy. And Italy is really a really nice country. I really like Italy. I've been there, so And I like pasta a lot. I used to eat pizza a lot. Don't eat it as much anymore because pizza tends to bother my stomach now. But yeah, those great things from Italy, just loved them. So, Northern Italy, and it began as at the time. It began in Northern Italy because at the time they possessed the most resources. Great job, Mrs. Professor Banks.
Why, thank you.
They possessed the most resources to finance the movement, because this movement was actually a lot of expensive art and a lot of really fancy art, so it was kind of expensive, and so they had the most resources to finance that and to be able to make all that art kind of spread across Europe, and Europe to kind of catch the wave of the Renaissance. So that's why it started in Northern Italy, and it focused on
fullest and development of capabilities of humans.
So that's a lot right there, that big blank. Fullest development of capabilities I apologize again, you're not going to see all this on the board. Fullest development of capabilities of humans. So the Renaissance was really a great time period because it put a lot of the focus on human beings and really encouraged them to develop to the fullest of their abilities and to use skills that they had. And that's how come especially big time with art, a lot of skilled artists in this time period, they used their capabilities and abilities to do that. So that was really key to this period. And now it focused on the fullest development of the capabilities of humans, and it did that by going back to the sources of Greek and Roman civilizations. And does anybody out there at all remember some of those things about the Greeks and Romans, especially the Greeks?
Literature, philosophy, art, science.
Awesome. Thank you, Mrs. Banks.
Welcome.
Literature, philosophy, art, and science. So literature, philosophy, art, and science. So those were the things that the Renaissance really focused in on. And obviously philosophy was strong to the Greek civilization. So was art. And science actually was all Greek. A lot of this was Greek. But Romans certainly played a part in the literature part. So we kind of went back to what was tried and true. That's what we were doing in this time period because, hey, they were the Greeks and Romans had pretty strong civilizations and they seemed to know what they were doing for quite a bit. So, hey, why don't we go back to a tried and true system? And so that's how come we use some of those things out of their civilizations in this time period. So, I also want to add, Renaissance literally means reborn. Okay, so that's what the Renaissance literally means, reborn. And so that's key to what I just said there, because basically these things that were part of earlier civilizations are kind of reborn again. So, and it kind of starts a really great cultural wave right through Europe. It's really awesome. And art focused now on ancient ideas from classical Latin texts and it's really blossoming. Really blossoming. I think I emphasized that 3 times now. Really blossoming. Also focused on lifelike things now. So, if you ever get a chance to look at some of the paintings from this time period, you'll see what I mean by this. Because the paintings are really lifelike when you look at the art from this time period. So, that's what that's applying. And the last blank that we have here that we need to fill in is the key to this whole time period is the invention of the
Printing press.
The printing press. Yay for the printing press. The key to this time period is the invention of the printing press in 1950 by a man named Gutenberg. And now what Gutenberg was, he was a German blacksmith, and he kind of started playing around with things, and he kind of started to devise some inventions, and he came across the printing press. He experimented enough and then found something that would actually print stuff out. So this was a huge development, because the printing press allowed things like books, literature, even art to be published and to be sold and to be spread across Europe. So the printing press was the whole key to that. And it was 1950 when that was invented by Gutenberg, a German blacksmith. So that is really key to this time period. Without the printing press, likelihood of this time period really blossoming and flourishing would probably be 0 to none, because there would be no way to spread across all those ideas and that literature across all of Europe. So printing press really, really important to this time period. So I guess what we'll do now is, now that I've given you all that information about the Renaissance, we'll both share something we like about this time period, and then we'll get into the joke of the week that we should have done at the beginning. So I'll start with me. For me, the one thing I really, the best part of the Renaissance that I like is, I really like the artist Michelangelo. And I saw Michelangelo created a lot of different arts, made a lot of different paintings. But I think one of the most greatest things he did was he basically painted on the ceiling he painted the whole ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in Rome. So that's in the Vatican City, the Sistine Chapel. And when I was there, I had an opportunity to go through Vatican City and the Sistine Chapel. And I'm telling you, what an impressive form of painting in there by this man Michelangelo. So that's one of the things I like about the Renaissance period. The best thing I like was the emergence of Michelangelo and his paintings in the Sistine Chapel. So now my wife will share something she likes about the Renaissance.
What I like about the Renaissance is philosophers, and they continue to impact us today. I really enjoy them.
Awesome. Philosophers. And we obviously saw some of those in Greece too. Big one, Aristotle and Socrates being two of the biggest philosophers that emerged out of the Greek civilizations. So that is basically what I want to share today. I don't want to make this too long, but let's end with the joke of the week. Hey, that's different, eh? We usually start, we're going to end with the joke of the week. So let me share the joke of the week with the help of my friend here. He's a baseball bear. So let me see. Oh, he doesn't sing anymore. His batteries are dead, dang it. Okay, just pretend he's singing, okay? You've heard me sing before. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I ever get back, for it's root, root, root for the home team. They don't win, it's a shame, for it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Woo! Now, I think we should send that off to Wrigley Field and have me as a special guest singer in the 7th inning at Wrigley Field there to lead the crowd. And I've been to a game at Wrigley Field last year, and that was pretty awesome. And the 7th inning stretch to take me out to the ball game is a pretty big part of Wrigley Field. And but this joke is related to baseball. That's why I wanted to do it, okay? So it's called A Baseball Story, and this is what I'll end with. A little boy was overheard talking to himself as he strutted through the backyard wearing his baseball cap and toting a ball and bat. "I'm the greatest hitter in the world," he announced. Then he tossed the ball into the air, swung at it, and missed. "Strike 1, he yelled. Undaunted, he picked the ball up again and said, "I'm the greatest hitter in the world." He tossed the ball into the air. When it came down, he swung again, and again he missed. "Strike 2, he cried. The boy then paused a moment to examine his bat and ball carefully. He spit on his hands and rubbed them together. He straightened his cap and said once more, "I'm the greatest hitter in the world." Again he tossed the ball up in the air, and he swung at it, and he missed again. "Strike 3, I'm out." "Wow," he exclaimed, "I'm the greatest pitcher in the world." So that's a cute little joke, I thought, with a kid in baseball. So hope you liked that joke to end the lesson, not to begin it. So that's basically a brief nutshell on the Renaissance that drives us out of the Middle Ages and puts Europe into a whole different state of frame of mind, and a really positive state of mind. So that's what happens with the Renaissance. Now next week, what I'm going to get into is the Age of Discovery. So next week, we're going to start to see some territory we haven't seen be discovered next week. And that is actually going to bring us to North America, because up till now, nobody has a clue North America exists. But with the Age of Discovery, they do find the land of North America. So I'm going to get into that next week on the Age of Discovery. So until next week, take care. And I hope you have a great week. And another lesson is coming up a lot more quicker than later, because it's only 4 days away from the weekend and there'll be another lesson. So this is Professor Banks signing off. I must give thanks to my wife for her contribution in this video too. So until next week, take care.